Good evening and welcome to the City of Helena City Commission meeting, October 17th, 2022, 6 p.m. This meeting is called to order. Madam Clerk.
City Attorney Doctor.
Here.
Interim City Manager Burton.
Here.
Commissioner Dean.
Here.
Commissioner Shirtliff.
Here.
Commissioner Logan.
Here.
Mayor Collins.
Here.
And for the record, Mayor Collins, Commissioner Reed was going to be a few minutes late.
Thank you. Welcome and thank you for participating in the City of Helena City Commission meeting. We are pleased to be able to provide this alternative meeting format in the city's effort to broaden public participation. Please be patient as we may experience technical difficulties during the meeting. We welcome your public commentary. Please read the following tips and guidelines for the app usage and your participation. Would you rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Minutes. Our regular minutes for 10/3/22, 9/26/22, 9/21/22, and 9/12/22 were received. Do we have any comments or questions? The minutes will be accepted as submitted. Board appointments. Board appointment, non-motorized travel advisory council, city council consolidated park boards. Commission discussion.
Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, I recognize that the mayor does not have his booklet tabbed because I failed to do so for him. So I will.
I have it.
Would you like to read that aloud,
Yes,
Mr. Mayor?
let's do it. I am recommending the following board appointments: non-motorized travel advisory council, reappointment of Wilbur Ryman to a second term on the non-motorized travel advisory council as a citizen member. First term ended March 31st, 2019. Second term will expire on March 31st, 2025. I'm also recommending City County Consolidated Parks Board. Reappointment of Dave McGuire to a second term on the City County Consolidated Park Board as a city appointee. Terms begin October 1st, 2022 and will expire on September 30th, 2025. Commissioners? Okay. Do we have any public comments on this? I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor,
Go ahead.
I'd like to move the board appointment of Wilbur Riemann for the Non-Motorized Travel Advisory Council.
We'll just do both of them.
Can we do both of them, or do we do both of them? I move to have both individuals, Dave McGuire on the, thank you, City County Consolidated Parks Board.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any final discussion? Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Dean.
Aye.
Commissioner Shirtliff.
Aye.
Commissioner Logan.
Aye.
Sorry, I apologize. Commissioner Reed isn't on yet. Mayor Collins.
Aye.
The motion carries 4-0.
Thank you. Communications proposals from the commissioners? Anything?
Mr. Mayor, I do have a brief update, if I may.
Please go ahead.
Give the commission and the public an update on where we are in the city manager recruitment process. As you all probably remember, we engaged CMS, Communication and Management Services of Helena, to conduct an assessment of our two most recent city manager hiring processes. And I'm very happy to report that they have completed that assessment, and we present that report for you here tonight. And it's in your packet. Hopefully you've had the opportunity to give it a read. But during July and August, CMS interviewed department heads, other members of leadership staff, and members of the commission to gain insight about our previous manager recruitment processes and to make recommendations on what is needed in our upcoming recruitment and beyond. It's our belief as members of the subcommittee that this document represents a transparent assessment and gives insightful recommendations as we, the commission, consider and develop strategies to help us find a qualified and capable city manager for our municipality and for our citizens. Be interested to know if any of you have any comments or questions. The mayor and I would be happy to answer any questions that we're technically capable of, and if they get beyond us, we
Pass it
have
on.
Drew Geiger here from CMS to help us through that. So
at this point, commissioners, any comments or questions?
Don't have any questions. Want to say thank you to both of you for running this subcommittee and also CMS for putting together, I think, a really insightful report for us. One of the things that the commission as a whole has been focused on the last year and a half has been really to ensure that we are setting up procedures and processes to ensure stability for the city at all levels, and that starts with the commission. I think this is a really solid document for us to continue to work off of, and something that will be there for future commissions as well. So they have the benefit of having some standard operating procedures in place when general turnover and succession happens throughout the organization. So grateful to you all and CMS for their work on this. I would highly encourage everyone in the public to take a look at it if they have not had a chance to read it, which I'm sure many have not, given that I know our packets aren't necessarily the #1 read in the community, but it's a great document, and I'm glad that we have it to work off of in the years ahead.
Thank you. Commissioner, any other comments from the commission?
So, Mr. Mayor, I might just add as kind of next steps from here, I guess the mayor and I, as part of this subcommittee dealing with the relations with city manager office, and in this case, the recruitment process, it would be our recommendation, if the commission's comfortable with continuing with CMS to manage our recruitment process. And so want to get a sense of if you all are comfortable with that approach.
Comments? I see consensus.
Yeah, that works good for me too. I do appreciate the work that Mr. Mayor and Commissioner Logan have put into this. And I can't eloquently put it as well as Commissioner Dean, but I think it's going to provide stabilization as well as some transparency and some guideposts for the city manager. But yeah, I'm good with that to move forward.
I wonder, Mr. Mayor or Commissioner Logan, can you maybe talk about some of the benefits as to us moving ahead with CMS for a recruitment process in the months ahead?
Well, for one, they're local. They understand. They know what we're looking for. And they've been with us. They follow us through all the ups and downs. And they provide a document that is workable. And so, in my opinion, I think it's only befitting us to move forward with them and keep the consistency going.
And I might just add to that, again, I'd sort of echo the local aspect, but from maybe a little different angle in the understanding of sort of the local and regional market. I think they're going to give us a good sense there, but I think the obvious answer is just that, you know, they've conducted this assessment. They have a good understanding of what staff is looking for in a manager and what the commission is looking for. I think we've got some work ahead to do, specifically the commission on, and maybe I'll speak to that right now. I think in the very near future, it probably would make sense for the commission to have a work session to clearly define what we're looking for in our next city manager. And I think that was strongly recommended in the document by both staff and
CMS.
and us and CMS. And so, yeah, I think those are the advantages of using CMS. And so I would say within the next couple of weeks, we probably ought to think about a special work session to clearly, to give CMS a
Some
clear
guidance.
definition of what we're looking for. So,
I'm in favor of setting that work session. I think it'll be a helpful conversation and a jumping off point after receiving this report.
Right. Thank you.
I concur with that as well.
Okay, any other comments?
Thanks, Mr.
If
Mayor.
not, we'll move along. Thank you, Commissioner. Report of the city attorney.
Mayor, Commissioners, thank you. In the 6 months that I've been here, I have heard from directors across the city that they would like some time from the city attorney's office to help with code revision projects. And I think you heard about that a little bit in the admin meeting on Wednesday of last week. I just wanted to let you know that I have just asked Amy Huckaluk, the assistant city attorney, and our paralegal, Jen Berry, to make it a priority to help city departments work on some code revision projects. We aren't generating those without directors generating those for us. I just wanted you to know that we won't do code revision unless there is a desire and a need to do those. The revisions that would be proposed and come before the commission would be vetted through the city manager's office, through the city departments, and also where necessary, if there's some there could be some controversy, there would even be some input from the community prior to it even coming to this commission. So I just wanted to let you know that from our standpoint in the city attorney's office, that we are dedicating that time and resource, and that even before it comes to you, we would vet it through all the channels necessary and then come before you to ask for those revisions. So if you have questions, please let me know. Otherwise, that's the report I have.
Thank you and good luck.
Thank you, Mayor.
Any comments from the commission? Okay. Report of the interim city manager, Manager Burton.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to invite Director Smith up. As we've talked in the past, Growing Friends did I think, a wonderful project off of Benton Avenue. Director Smith's here to talk about it, and I believe there are representatives of Growing Friends in the audience as well, Mayor. So with that, I'll turn it over to Director Smith.
Thank you, Manager Burton. Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, it's a pleasure to be here for the first time, and for a very positive reason. As Manager Burton has spoken to, the City of Helena is working with Growing Friends for a number of years. They're an urban tree planting organization, and they just did a fabulous project on Burton Avenue, on the golf course, outside fence line, 50
You got an
trees.
avenue now.
50 trees. So it's a great addition to the city, and it's a beautification measure for our golf course as well, and the streets. So without further ado, with your permission, Mr. Mayor, we have a group from Growing Friends that would like to come up and say a few words.
Please,
All right.
you have the floor, Growing Friends.
Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, thank you very much for this. It was a great project. To get it done, we did have to change the name of the street, as you heard, but I think it'll work out in the long run. I would like to thank, there was 35 or 40 volunteers came out in a terrible rainstorm to plant those, so you can see how much the people of Helena are looking forward to these kinds of trees. The funding came from several generous donations by Bob Rasmussen, Raz, who was at one time a county planter around here, and now is a planter. He was involved in planting the snowcads that you have out around the parking lot 25 years ago. So now this project happened with him. Also on this project, Michael Heel, back from Garden Works, he partnered with us on that, gave us a good deal, and did a lot of the hard work. And finally, I'd like to thank the members of the Parks Department that helped plan this. I think that with them, we ended up with a better project than we would have had with what we started originally, and it turned out well. And then, Mr. Mayor, if I may,
Please.
I wanted to introduce some of the people with me. Mackenzie Peterson is our vice president. You'll be seeing more of her in the future, next time you have we're up here with this kind of project. And then Rob Freistad, our treasurer, and Mike Heel of Garden Works, who really was instrumental in making this happen. Anyway, thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. And to the growing friends, I'll tell you, the people of Helena really thought that it was a Helena City project, and they kept giving me all your kudos, and I tried to tell them, no, it's not us. So I'm happy we're doing this for them, and I hope the news can pick it up and let them know that it's your project.
Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, my name is Mike Heel, and I'm one of the founding members of Growing Friends of Helena over 40 years ago. And I just wanted to thank the city in recognizing the importance of trees. And I want to pass out my favorite quote about trees, if I may.
Please.
Right?
Please.
I'd like the mayor to read it, if you would. Oh, man, it's really short.
Okay, giving me extra work today.
Just pass them out, if you would. It's one of my favorite quotes, so I thought it was really relevant. It's about trees, but it expands to other things. I just wanted to thank everyone. Thank you.
And it reads, "The true meaning of life is to plant trees under whose shades you do not expect to sit." Nelson Henderson. Thank you, Growing Trees. We appreciate it. Give them a round of applause. Mr. Manager, are you?
Here, that concludes my report.
Okay, thank you. Communications from Helena Citizens Council, Representative Ben Cooper. Madam Clerk?
Mr. Kuiper, do you have access to your mic?
Hi, Mayor, Commissioners, can you hear me?
Sorry for butchering your name.
Oh, no worries.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Ben Kuiper. I am a District 2 Helena Citizens Council representative. And I don't have a whole lot for you today, so I'll be brief. I just wanted to mention that our next meeting is Wednesday, October 26th. That's a week from this Wednesday. It's at 7 p.m. in room 326 of the City County building. There'll also be a Zoom link if people would like to attend via the internet. Our agenda includes our guest speakers, Commissioner Andy Shurtleff and the Growing Friends of Helena. We'll also be discussing some bylaw amendments that will probably take the majority of our meeting. And other than that, I just wanted to restate Helena Citizens Council's interest in being on the search committee for the new city manager. So other than that, that's all I have unless you have any questions.
Comments or questions for Mr. Kuiper?
Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to briefly thank HCC. They passed along their top issues per district that we had requested a couple meetings back, and get that information from Peggy, and interesting to see where there was overlap and where there wasn't between districts. So as you all continue to have some of those conversations, I know we'd be interested in hearing them.
Okay, I will pass that along. Thank you so
Thanks.
much.
Thank you, sir. And thank you, Commissioner. Okay, we'll move along. Public hearings. Consider an ordinance amending City of Helena Ordinance Number 3097 and amending the official zoning map of the City of Helena for zone change from commercial light manufacturing to R4 residential for properties described as Track 1A on Certificate of Survey Number 3198943. City of Helena, Lewis and Clark County, Montana. This property is located at 2605 North Sanders Street. Planner Alvarez, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor and Commission. I am Michael Alvarez. I'm a planner with the Community Development Department. And this item tonight is a zone change. As the mayor just read, this is consideration of an ordinance amending the official zoning map from CLM to R4 for the aforementioned Tract 1A on Certificate of Survey 3198943. The property is here outlined in red. This property is generally located on the east side of North Sanders Street between Orange Ave and Marshall Lane. It is currently a CLM Commercial Light Manufacturing Zoning District. The applicant is seeking a zone change from that district to an R4 residential office zoning district. The applicant hopes to build residential multifamily by right, and CLM would require a conditional use permit for multi-unit residences. As you can see here on the certificate of survey, that tract is about 11 acres. The CLM district provides for the community's commercial and light manufacturing needs. These uses generally need access to the city's transportation amenities and should be located to reduce adverse impacts upon residential neighborhoods in the city. The R4RO residential office districts provide for a compatible mix of higher density residential development with professional businesses, offices, and associated service uses. And I didn't load this slide, but this has a couple of inaccuracies on it. Sorry, this is an older version. Sorry, give me 1 second. Not sure what happened. In the adoption of zoning regulations, the municipal body shall consider sections 2A through 2E of MCA section 72304. A, that the adequate provision of light and air is secured in all zones using setbacks and restrictions on building heights. B, to item B, the City of Helena's expected trip generation numbers for CLM are greater than for R4. The applicants did submit a TIS, and one notable finding is that the applicant will need to address the failing intersection, and this is supposed to read at North Sanders and Cedar.
Okay.
And they'll need to work with MDT on that. For C, the current zoning would require a CUP for the intended use, multi-dwelling residence, and R4 would allow development by right. D, this area of the neighborhood is located on an arterial and is dominated by car-oriented commercial. Our growth policy considers high-density residential to be compatible with commercial areas. The site currently sits vacant and hasn't been developed under the CLM zoning. Here's the aerial photography of the site and a picture I took on a site visit on September 2nd. The 2019 Helena Growth Policy Land Use Chapter and Future Land Use Map identifies this neighborhood as commercial. Surrounding properties are similarly designated as commercial, save for the City of Helena parkland designated as open space. One thing to note here, this isn't really parkland. Currently, it doesn't have amenities, doesn't have facilities. It's more for water retention ponds, that kind of stuff. So the growth policy also includes several goals and objectives that are applicable to the proposed zone change. Objective 12, which is to promote and maintain development of a diverse housing stock, and Objective 78, which is to encourage infill development on vacant and underutilized land within the city. The proposed zoning R4 would most squarely addresses those the growth policy's directions to promote infill development and create diverse housing stock. The change in zoning from CLM to R4 would allow for the development of all types of housing and specifically multifamily residential. So just to note here, this parcel could have a zone change to B2 commercial and likewise develop as multifamily residential. Change in zoning to B2 may be seen as a better match to the future land use map designation. However, R4 best reflects the intention of the developer, and the intended development type, high-density residential, is outlined as a potential use for areas designated as commercial. This was legally noticed in the Helena IR. Neighbor notices were mailed to adjacent property owners, and a sign was placed on the premises. No public comments were collected for this proposal. The Zoning Commission recommended, their recommendation was moved to recommend approval of an ordinance amending the official, they recommend that you move to approve an ordinance amending the official zoning map. And what you have, sorry, this was supposed to be rewritten. What you have at the beginning was correct, and this was supposed to be rewritten. I apologize.
Okay, thank you. Comments or questions from the commission?
Mr. Mayor, I have two questions.
Please.
And I don't know if the applicant is here, so that might be, if you don't know the answer, happy to pass it along. First question is, if we know what the timeline is, should we approve right now what the timeline is for this development? And two, I noticed that the developer is out of Utah, and I'm curious if they've done any developments in the Helena area or elsewhere in Montana.
Yes, thank you, Mayor and Commission. Yes, so this will be their second project in Helena. They did some apartment building, and they are also here if you want to direct these questions to them. They are available. They did some apartments just north of Custer and off of McHugh.
Okay.
So they have worked here before.
So,
And timeline?
first, yeah.
Timeline, they would be better at, for answering that question. As of yet, I know that they're still developing site plans, so we still haven't gotten that far with it, which is why we don't necessarily have specifics on the traffic impact study that they submitted.
Yep, okay, thanks.
Okay, any other comments or questions from the commission?
Mr. Mayor, I've got a question for Mr. Alvarez. You'd mentioned the zoning between B4 and B2. Could you go into that a little bit more about your recommendation or your suggestion on a B2 zoning? Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor and Commission. So the alternative would be B2 zoning over in this area, and it's almost wholly surrounded by B2 with some CLM down to the southwest of it. Generally, we are trying to direct people that are doing purely residential projects into residential zoning. Our code is a little bit more robust in terms of the standards of those areas for residential development than B2 is. B2, while it allows for multifamily and duplexes even, is perhaps can be overly generous and for some purely residential projects, and perhaps requires a little bit too much out of infrastructure requirements for them. So it's just a matter of trying to make it more appropriate.
Any other comments from the commission? Do we have any public comments? I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I wonder, could we get the applicant to respond to my timeline question?
Okay. Did you hear her question, sir?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, I did, Mayor. Thanks, Commissioner. As far as timeline goes, we would start on the design and everything immediately upon, the approvals.
Great,
So,
thank you.
yeah, thank you.
Thanks.
Sir?
Your name?
Oh, yes. Sorry, Russ Polson and Thrive Development.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
if you'd like a motion, I'd be happy to give one a try. Please, if you would, make sure I'm getting this correct. So I would move to accept an ordinance amending City of Helena Ordinance Number 3097 and amending the official zoning map for the City of Helena for a zone change from CLM, Commercial Light Manufacturing, to R4 Residential for properties described as Tract A on Certificate of Survey Number 3198943, City of Helena, Lewis and Clark County, Montana. This property is located at 2605 North Sanders.
Second. Oh, good.
You did good. It's been moved and seconded. Any final discussion?
Mr. Mayor, I'm excited for this project. I know folks, the other development that you've done, I know a couple of people who live over there and very happy with it, so thanks for thinking of Helena.
Madam Clerk?
Apologize. Commissioner Dean?
Aye.
Commissioner Shertliff?
Aye.
Commissioner Logan?
Aye.
Commissioner Reed?
Aye.
Mayor Collins?
Aye.
The motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. Consider a resolution granting a conditional use permit to allow casino use in B2 Commercial Zoning District for property legally described as Track A on Certificate of Survey Number 432628, located in Lewis and Clark County, Montana. This property is located at 2910 North Montana Avenue. Planner Alvarez, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor and Commission. Once again, I am Michael Alvarez. I'm a planner with the Community Development Department. This is a conditional use permit to consider a resolution granting for a casino use in the B2 Commercial Zoning District for property legally described as Tract A, as the mayor read, 432628/T. This property is located at 2910 North Montana Avenue, Helena, Montana, and is generally located on the southwest corner of North Montana Avenue and Terra Court. It is in a B2 commercial zoning district. The applicant is requesting a conditional use permit to operate a casino in said district. The lot currently sits, this should read, largely vacant. The use on the site is restaurant drive-in, the designation most applicable for a coffee kiosk there. The applicant plans to erect a new 16,500 square foot fuel sales facility, which includes the accessory sale of convenience foods and goods. And approximately 4,000 square feet of the facility will be occupied by the proposed casino. Casinos are establishments licensed for on-premise consumption of alcoholic beverages, which A, is licensed for and has 6 or more video gaming machines or gambling devices, or B, is licensed for and used to conduct any of the following types of gambling: Calcutta pools, live card games, live card game tournaments, and live keno. The B2 Commercial District provides for compatible residential uses and a broad range of commercial and service uses that serve large areas of the city and that are normally required to sustain a community. Fuel sales, the retail sales of gasoline, kerosene, diesel, or other motor fuels, including accessory sale of convenience foods and goods, and light maintenance activities and minor repairs. Here's the site plan. This is very close to what we should be seeing here at this location, with minor details to be worked out with MDT, City of Helena for transportation and placement of sidewalks and boulevards and that sort of thing. They are not asking for any variances with this project. You'll see the new fuel stands there on the eastern part of the development. Their fuel stands for the existing town pump to the south are to be removed. Elevation and first floor plan of the new facility. And here is the current certificate of survey we have on file. And you'll notice track 3 is a different parcel there at the corner to the west of them. So for a conditional use permit, we review it with Title 11, Chapter 3, Section 4. Section A are the standards that need to be met, and Section B are the factors used to determine whether the standards in Section A are met. Section C of that chapter basically just tells us that any adverse impacts of the standards of Section A may be used to justify the denial of a permit or the placement of conditions on that permit. So this site was once occupied by the Circus Theater. The commercial activity currently on the site is a coffee kiosk, and the site also serves as a display of custom sheds. This area of North Montana Avenue is typically developed as commercial enterprises, almost exclusively arrived at by car, and the intersection of Terra Court and North Montana Avenue is signalized. The applicant has performed a traffic impact study for the location, and city staff has commented that they agree with the findings and proposed remedies. Of note here, the casino use is not expected to be the major driver of traffic at the site, which is going to be the fuel sales. The building will require the installation of new sidewalks in keeping with the complete streets policy along the frontages. This is an especially critical portion of connectivity on North Montana, as this property currently interrupts the sidewalk there. The proposed casino would be housed inside a newly constructed 16,500 square foot facility. The casino will occupy approximately a quarter of that. There should be a premise exhibit with your packets. With the remainder being a convenience store supporting new gas pump islands, and the facility will necessitate new parking facilities with all pertinent access, landscaping, and screening required by code. On that note, the parking lots are currently not screened from the nearby residential neighborhood, and the parking lots would not need to be screened as per 1124.5 because of that vacant B2 commercial lot that I noted previously. It is recommended then that Town Pump install screening until such a time as that parcel is developed, and whether the proposal meets the zoning dimensional standards requirements for the zoning district without the, and I'm just reading right now. My apologies. No variances are requested for this project. This was legally noticed in the Helena IR. Neighbor notices were mailed out to adjacent property owners out to 300 feet, and you'll note that that is twice the distance we typically go to, and we wanted to capture that neighborhood to the west at least somewhat, so we increased the distance there. Public comment consisted of a petition and a letter from Eagle Electric, which is located at 1102 Enterprise Drive. The zoning commission's recommendation was that you move to approve the resolution with the following conditions. 1, a building permit be submitted for within 1 year. 2, that screening shall be put in place along the western lot line until such a time as the commercial property to the west is developed. And 3, that all conditions must be met within 1 year of CUP approval, as per section 1139 of Helena City Code.
Thank you. Comments or questions from the commission?
Mr. Mayor, I do have a question.
Please.
So when I was reading the zoning commission minutes, it popped out that there is currently a casino in the structure there, the convenience store's in right now. Do you know how many machines are in that current current convenience store?
I do not, Mayor and Commission, I do not know. However, I believe we have a representative from Town Pump here who can answer that question.
And I guess interested to know if we had already issued a CUP for that. I don't know if it was established before the CUP requirement was in place, but curious to know that. And then it sounds like the building will not, current building will not be torn down, but maybe utilized for something else. So I'm curious if they know what that use might be, or the timeline for additional use.
Mayor and Commission, the applicant can better answer what their proposed plan is for the existing building. It is not going to be turned down. At Zoning Commission, they said that they, loosely wanted to lease out the space. But I don't know of a firm plan from them for that space. It is operating under a conditional use permit currently down there.
And if the applicant can answer those when they come up, that'd be great. Thanks. Thank you, Mr. Alvarez.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the commission. My name is Dan Sampson. I am the Construction Development Manager for Town Pump. In response to your questions, there are currently 20 machines in that existing location. I wished I had as good of an answer for the second half of your question. We're not totally sure yet. Our intention is to remodel the building and lease it out or reuse it in some fashion. We're just not sure what that looks like yet.
Great. Thank you.
You bet.
Mr. Mayor, I've got a question for the applicant.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I didn't mean.
You're good.
Thank you very much for being here today. Appreciate it. The existing pumps, when they're torn out, what's that process look like, and what's the cleanup for that as well?
So there's actually no open releases at that site. So what we do is we'll go in, we'll take out that canopy. The existing fuel tanks are good, well under the 30-year-old double-walled fiberglass tanks. So those will be reused for the new station. The pumps and the current piping that is underground will be removed, all ground underneath. It'll be sampled, turned into DEQ. That's a permitted process. If there was to find any contamination in those soils, those would be dug out and removed at that time. You bet. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments or questions from the commission? Do we have any public comments? You coming for public? Okay. Okay, I'll entertain a motion then.
Mr. Mayor, I would move the approval of a resolution granting a conditional use permit to allow a casino use in the B2 commercial zoning district for property legally described as Tract A on certificate of survey number 432628/T located in Lewis and Clark County, Montana.
Mr. Mayor, could I ask a question?
Please.
If we wanted to include the recommendations from the zoning commission, is it possible to add those on? Commissioner Logan, I don't know if you meant to include those or did not mean to include those.
Mr. Mayor, Commissioner Reed, I'm reading the recommended motion in the staff memo is all. So if necessary, if those conditions are necessary, then looks like they're up on our screen now. I can reread that motion. All right, so let's try this again. So I'd move to approve a resolution granting a conditional use permit to allow a casino use in the B2 commercial zoning district for property legally described as Tract A on certificate of survey number 432628/T, records of Lewis and Clark County, Montana. This property being located at 2910 North Montana Avenue with the following conditions. 1, a building permit be submitted for within 1 year. 2, screening shall be put in place along the western lot line until such time as the commercial property to the west is developed. And 3, all conditions must be met within 1 year of CUP approval as per section 11-3-9 of the Helena City Code.
Second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any final discussion from the commission? Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Dean?
Aye.
Commissioner Shertliff?
Aye.
Commissioner Logan?
Aye.
Commissioner Reed?
Aye.
Mayor Collins?
Aye.
The motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. Regular items. Consider approval of the agreement for the provision of school resource officers by the City of Helena School District. Chief Petty, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. All right, good evening, Mayor and Commission.
Good evening.
Tonight, we are presenting an agreement between the Helena School District and the City of Helena for the Helena Police Department to provide school resource officers to the Helena School District. I would like the Commission to consider an approval of this agreement. Currently, we have 4 school resource officers, 2 SROs are assigned to each of the 2 Helena high schools, and 2 officers are assigned to each of the 2 Helena middle schools. With this agreement, the school district has agreed to fund 2 out of the 4 SRO positions starting at the beginning of this FY23 budget year. Also with this agreement, you'll see that the school district and the police department have not only entered into an agreement, but also an addendum to the agreement that outlines the SRO program guidelines. These guidelines lay out clear roles and responsibilities of the school resource officer along with the school district staff. Overall, this agreement with the school district is a great opportunity for the city to enhance its partnership with the Helena School District. And with this valued relationship with the Helena School District, I would recommend to the Commission to approve the agreement for the provision of school resource officers by the city to the Helena School District. And Mayor, if you don't mind, prior to making a motion to approve the agreement and with your permission, I'd like to invite the superintendent of the school district, Rex Welts, to come up, say a few comments, if you don't mind.
You have the floor, Mr. Superintendent.
Thank you, Mayor. Commission. My name is Rex Welts, Superintendent at Helena Public Schools. As Chief had mentioned, this is a partnership. We are here in full support of this approval. With me tonight, I have Josh McKay, Assistant Superintendent of Secondary Schools, and Barb Ridgway, Chief of Staff. She's in charge of policy, contracts, legal affairs, and so they're here in full support as well. I would like to mention that it's been, I think, 2013 when this was last updated, so it's been well needed in due time. We talked about a partnership, and Chief talked about that connection that we have with the city and the Helena School District. You know, I think that's in full display with the project at Kessler. We now just started quarterly meetings with Manager Burton, and so I do believe that it is true partnership that we have, and so not only for the support of this movement, but also moving forward in a relationship. So I full support of this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Superintendent. Comments or questions from the commission?
Mr. Mayor?
Go ahead, Commissioner.
Thank you. This question is either for Chief Petty or for the superintendent. You noted that the last MOU was from 2013. Could you just, for the public, give us a super broad overview of what the major changes were between 2013 and now in the MOU? Thank you.
Do you want to? And then I can also, I can also bring up Chief of Staff, Ms. Ridgway. The major changes is really what we talked about in that amendment of what does an SRO duties look like, and I think that was a lot of the work that was presented. I think also from city attorney and our attorney, there was a lot of language that was above our scope and sequence. Certainly the legal affairs of what that might look like, or mostly around insurance, if I remember right. So those are the 2 pieces I think that really cause us in reference to timeline on this. This is I started 18 months ago, and this is well before me. This is 2 superintendents, 3 city managers, and probably a couple of city attorneys into this. And so it's been quite the timeline for this to come to reality.
Got anything else?
And Commissioner Reed, one thing I would add, historically, the SROs have been in place since roughly late 90s, early 2000s, and there's really never been an agreement in place for this. So I think for historical reference, we're at a great point here, and to have this actually down on paper and, like the superintendent said, to have the guidelines in place is absolutely huge in creating this relationship. So with the support of the school district and the support of the SROs, it's just it's a wonderful thing moving forward.
Thank you. I appreciate all the work that both of you and everybody on your teams has put into it.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions?
Mr. Mayor, I'd just like to thank the chief and the superintendent for all of their work on this and the numerous staff. This really started, well, actually when Commissioner Reed was interim city manager, she was the first one to undertake this in the city manager role. And we had really broad and difficult conversations across the community. I think that we've gotten to a place where this document, compared to what we had before this, is way more comprehensive, and I think we're the better for it. Some historical background too. Folks may not remember some of this, but the best practices that are reflected within this MOU, really, most of them come directly out of the ACLU's white paper on best practices for SRO programs and ensuring students are safe and represented, and that we are following all the best practices to keep our schools safe. I think it's probably a model for what other districts and partnerships could be using, because we are so specific in these guidelines, and I'm sure that we'll find places in the coming years where we have areas for improvement, but because we are so specific in the data that is collected and the really reporting that occurs, I think that we'll be able to make really good decisions moving forward. And glad to see that our partnership with the school district is, I think, in a better place now than it's been in probably a decade. And many programs and projects that are underway as our partnership grows and continues.
If I may, Mayor?
Yes, please.
Commissioner Dean, and I totally agree that I think the connection and the relationship that we're rekindling with the cities allows us to have those conversations of what's working, what's not. This is not a document that we'll shelve and come back to 2 or 3 years later. I think this runs out to 2025. But these are conversations of what we can do better, lessons learned. I think not to be lost in the of the contract itself is how important the SROs are to our team. Kids rely on them, staff rely on them, and they are, we talk about them in a contract, but they are humans, and they're very vital in each one of our schools. So we appreciate having them as a team member in our school district. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, absolutely. I just echo what you both said. I appreciate the partnership, and I appreciate the safety of our children and our students is absolutely paramount. So thank you very much for what you're doing here today.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, I'd just like to, I guess, close with thanks. I think one thing we found a couple years ago was in the discussion that really was a community-wide discussion about whether we needed SROs or not. I think we found out very clearly that the community supports them, whether it's the school district, whether it's students or their parents, and other organizations around the Helena community. And I think we found out how important this program is. So I gotta say thanks to all of you for the work that you've done to make this a very solid agreement that will carry us well into the future. So thanks.
Thank you. I'm sorry, you're not closing. Thanks, guys. We appreciate the partnership. Okay. Do we have any more public comments? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I move the approval of the agreement for the provision of school resource officers by the City of Helena School District.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded. Any final discussion from the commission? Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Dean,
Aye.
Commissioner Shertliff,
Aye.
Commissioner Logan,
Aye.
Commissioner Reed,
Aye.
Mayor Collins.
Aye.
The motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. Consider pay plan RFP proposal and selection recommendation. Director McMahon, you have the floor.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners.
Good evening.
Last fall, we sent an RFP for proposals for our pay plan for the City of Helena, our employees. We received 6 responses to those proposals. We were really thrilled to get that many responses from really qualified vendors. Of the 6, we had a committee of 5 people internally review those proposals. That committee comprised of myself, Andrea Decker from the HR office, Kim Mack from Community Development, Brad Langsather from Parks, and David Konopke from Transportation. And we reviewed all 6 of the applicants or the proposals, and 2 popped to the top, clearly could meet the objectives and had a lot of experience in municipalities and the work that we want to do. The work that we're doing is 2 parts. One is a market study to assess what wages basically we're competing with, where our employees are going to, and where we're trying to recruit them from. So assessing those competitive wages and determining a market, those market wages. And then the second is to assess and redevelop and look at our pay plan itself. So it's a 2-phased project. After reviewing all of the proposals, like I said, 2 came to the top. One, we've already talked about Communications and Management Services, CMS, or a local organization, but very impressive was also an organization called McGrath Group. They do a lot of work with public safety, public service exclusively, lots of municipality work. Really impressive with their response to our proposal or RFP. At the end of the day, we are, though, recommending to you that we hire CMS to conduct and partner with us at the city for this 2-phase project.
Thank you. Comments or questions from the commission?
Mr. Mayor, I'll just briefly comment. I think this is one of the items that I'm most excited about in our budget this past year that we passed. Recruitment and retention hasn't just been an issue for, all organizations, but we've had some pretty significant issues over the last 5 years, 4 or 5 years, and this is going to be a really critical piece to ensuring that we get it right and we can recruit and retain the best employees who want to live in Helena and serve the people of Helena and work for the City of Helena. So I'm very excited to have this moving forward. I think it's going to give us a lot of really good information and some actionable steps moving forward.
Any other comments from the commission? Do we have any public comments? Madam Clerk.
Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, I have no hands raised and nor written public comment online.
I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I will move to approve awarding the market wage analysis and pay plan project to CMS Communication and Management Services, LLC.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any final discussion? Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Dean.
Aye.
Commissioner Shertliff.
Aye.
Commissioner Logan.
Aye.
Commissioner Reed.
Aye.
Mayor Collins.
Aye.
The motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. Okay, moving along. Consider a resolution relating to the financing of proposed water systems improvements, establishing compliance with reimbursement bond regulation under the Internal Revenue Code. Director Danielson, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor and Commission. Tonight I have a reimbursement resolution in front of you. The water system submitted application to the state DNRC, the Safe Drinking Water Program, for loan amounts in amount of $4.2 million. And under the Internal Revenue Code, we're required to state our intention to borrow expenditures prior to borrowing the funds. The current rate with the SRF program is 2.5% for 20-year bonds. And the city is currently working with Dan Siemens from Dorsey Whitney LLP to help facilitate the financing of this borrowing. A little bit of background, this was part of the whole package brought before the commission for the water projects totaling $13.4 million. The commission designated $1.8 million from our local recovery ARPA funds for that. We're also receiving $5.2 million in minimum allocation grants from the state, and almost $2 million of competitive grants. And then the city's also required to have match funds. This is one of the primary reasons for the borrowing is there's a potential for these loans to be forgiven in the future, not guaranteed, but at this point there's some potential for these loans to be forgiven. And so this is just the reimbursement resolution to comply with the Internal Revenue Code. If you have any questions, I am available.
Thank you, Director Danielson. Comments or questions from the commission? Public comments? I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we consider the approval, I move that we consider a resolution relating to the financing of proposed water system improvements establishing compliance with reimbursement bond regulations under the Internal Revenue Code.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any final discussions from the commission? Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Dean.
Aye.
Commissioner Shertliff.
Aye.
Commissioner Logan.
Aye.
Commissioner Reed.
I'm having computer issues, but aye.
Thank you, Mayor Collins.
Aye.
The motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. Consider approval of a resolution annexing the Aspen Park Phase 2 to the crossroad at Mountain View Meadows subdivision in Lewis and Clark County into the city of Helena, Montana. Planner Ray, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. Can you all see my PowerPoint?
Yes, we can.
Thank you very much. So as was just mentioned, tonight you're being asked to consider the final annexation of the Aspen Park Phase 2, otherwise known as Block 9, of the Crossroads Amendment to the Mountain View Meadows subdivision. So this is a vicinity map of the area in question. It's bordered in red. And by way of background, this project is generally located at the northwest corner of Alpine View Drive and Runkle Parkways in the Mountain View Meadows subdivision. There was both preliminary plat approval and passage of the resolution of intention to annex for this property on March 14th of this year. The subject area is approximately 9.123 acres in size. It's currently completely undeveloped, and it is pre-zoned R4. There was final passage for an ordinance for that in April of this year. As far as the land uses that surround it and the adjacent zoning, to the north, the land is vacant, and it is currently in the county. It is urban residential mixed use zoned. To the south, there are single family homes and as well as some vacant land. So for the areas with single family homes, they're zoned in the city as R3 residential, and the balance that is vacant is urban residential mixed use. To the east, the land is also vacant, but it is zoned in the city. It is zoned R3. And to the west, you have more single family homes and it is zoned R4 residential. There were a number of conditions of approval set forth in the resolution of intention to annex number 20725. I'm just going to quickly go through those with you this evening. The first pertains to infrastructure and states that all infrastructure installed has to meet city standards. As far as infrastructure is concerned for this area, the applicant has received interim acceptance for infrastructure. They got that a little over a month ago on the 14th of September. And they have also executed a financial guarantee for the remaining improvements that have yet to be installed. With regard to new construction, again, everything has to meet city standards. And that additionally, everything else has to meet other adopted codes of the city. I've already discussed interim acceptance and the financial guarantee, and do just want to state that any permits that are submitted to the city for future development will, as noted here, be subject to all applicable and adopted codes, including building, zoning, fire, etc. With regard to taxes and assessments, they're required to be paid and current at the time of passage of the resolution. That is the case in the present instance. They are current. With regard to notice of special districts, the property owner must waive the right to notification and protest and consent to the alteration of the boundaries for the urban forest maintenance district and the landfill monitoring district prior to annexation, and the property owner and applicant has done so. In this case, they have waived the right to protest, and that was included in their application. And last but not least, the applicant was required to submit their final plat to the city for annexation, and that is the next item on the agenda. They have done that. So based on the conditions of approval set forth in the resolution of intention of annex, the applicant has met all of the conditions for annexation. So with that, the recommended motion before you this evening is to move to approve a resolution annexing Aspen Park Phase 2 of the Crossroads and Mountain View Meadows subdivision in Lewis and Clark County into the city of Helena, Montana. And with that, I'm happy to take any questions you have. I believe that the owner and applicant, Mark Runkle, is with us either in person or digitally, as is their representative, Jeff Larson. Thank you.
Thank you, Planner Ray. Comments or questions from the commission? Is there any public comments? Did you?
I was slow.
Okay, we'll go back.
Sorry.
Comments or questions from the commission?
I don't think I didn't see this in the packet, and I could have missed it, and I hope I didn't miss Ellie reading it. But do we know how many residences you're anticipating for this?
How many units?
Mayor and Commissioners, I'll defer to the applicant to that point. I can tell you that there will be a number of multifamily condominiums built on what will, if final plat is completed, on Lot 2 of this area.
Thank you. We have one of the representatives speaking to us right now, Planner Ray.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. I'm Jeff Larson. To answer your question, there's 16 buildings and they're duplexes, so there'll be 32 units.
Oh, nice.
Thank you, sir. Any other comments, questions? I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to consider approval of a resolution annexing the Aspen Park Phase 2 of the Crossroads at Mountain View Meadows subdivision in Lewis and Clark County into the city of Helena, Montana.
Second, do we need the full A1?
That's the second one.
Oh, got it.
It's been moved and seconded. Any final discussion? Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Dean.
Aye.
Commissioner Shertliff.
Aye.
Commissioner Logan.
Aye.
Commissioner Reed.
Aye.
Mayor Collins.
Aye.
The motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. Consider approval of the final plat for the Aspen Park Phase 2 minor subdivision creating 2 city lots and street right-of-way containing 9.123 acre portion and a future phase lot of track A1, 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 as shown on Certificate of Survey 3404490 in the records of the clerk and recorder of Lewis and Clark County, Montana. Planner Ray, you have the floor.
Thank you again, Mayor and Commissioners. That parent tract name is growing by the day, it feels like. So I will try to keep this brief, as you've already heard most of the information pertaining to this application. So again, just to refresh everybody's memory, this is the property in question. What I didn't state before, but is a fact that is worth considering, is that with this minor subdivision, there will be the creation of 2 lots. The Lot to the north is known as Lot 2. It's going to be a little over 5 acres, maybe 5.25 approximately. And that's where the condominiums will be constructed, the 32 units, as Jeff Larson mentioned earlier. And the remainder will be right-of-way interior to that lot, or it will be the Lot 1, which is going to be privately managed open space with some stormwater easements attached to it. So this is the actual detail of the final plat that will be recorded if approved. And there were findings of facts that were completed for this back in July on the 21st. These conditions of approval are noted herein. They're the only ones that are shown on the screen. It's very limited. So with regard to transportation, Alpine View and Twilight are to be constructed to city standards. Twilight Avenue is complete. Alpine View has received interim acceptance for infrastructure, as was noted earlier this evening, and all of the remaining improvements, including Alpine View, are financially guaranteed. With respect to stormwater, there was the need to dedicate an easement for stormwater infrastructure on Lot 1, as I mentioned a moment ago. That easement has been executed, or rather, it has been drafted, and it will be recorded. So having settled that, the applicant has met all of the conditions of approval for final plat of Aspen Park Phase 2. And so the recommendation for motion before you tonight is to move to approve final plat of the Aspen Park Phase 2 minor subdivision, creating 2 city lots and street right-of-way containing a 9.123 acre portion and a future phase lot of tract A1, 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 as shown on Certificate of Survey 3404490 in the records of the Clerk and Recorder of Lewis and Clark County, Montana. And with that, again, I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Planner Ray. Comments or questions from the commission? Public comments. Madam Clerk, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor,
Go ahead, Commissioner.
I would move to approve the final plat for the Aspen Park Phase 2 minor subdivision, creating 2 city lots and street right-of-way containing 9.123 acre portion and a future phase lot of tract A1, 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 as shown on Certificate of Survey 3404490 in the records of the Clerk and Recorder of Lewis and Clark County, Montana.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded. Any final discussion from the commission? Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Dean.
Aye.
Commissioner Shertliff.
Aye.
Commissioner Logan.
Aye.
Commissioner Reed.
Aye.
Mayor Collins.
Aye.
The motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. At this time, is there anyone from the public wishes to address the commission? Is there any final discussion from the commission? This meeting is adjourned.